Hi, Megan. Welcome to Funnel Vision. I'm excited to have you on today to hear about your story, tips, tricks, and advice for our community of sales professionals.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Alana. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. So, starting out with just, quick jump into the first question here. What is the game-changing tactic or the one thing that you rely on to build solid and strong client relationships?
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is I think of it as helping, not selling. I have a great colleague that often says, like, desperation is unattractive in dating and in business. And so you always want to go in with the mindset so that you're helping people, and that's what you're there to do. And then it comes across as genuine and that you're there to share how you can help. And then it's up to them to take the choice of whether that's the help that they need. But when you go in with the idea that you're attached to the outcome, that you know that you have the solution for them, I think it just puts up a wall with people. And ultimately in sales, we're in a relationship business. And so you're there to help them with whatever they need. It may or may not be what you actually have, but you're there to share how you could help, to help them think through their problem, and they remember that afterwards. That's more makes more of an impression in the interaction. And then someday when you are the thing that they need, they'll come back to you because you'll have left that sincere impression that you want to help rather than that you're there to sell them something.
Yeah, I love that, and it makes so much sense, and it's so true. We actually funny because we were just having this conversation this week, with someone on my team, which is you know it was they were kind of separated from the outcome, and it was like the first time, like when you first get into sales, you're so attached to like getting that yes, and everything depends on that, and it makes you come across as desperate sometimes, whereas like you just have to understand, like you said, like you're there to help, and if this is a great solution for the client, amazing, and if it's not, then what value can you provide to that person, like starting that an authentic relationship, being a value
Mm-hmm.
add, just being a trusted advisor that they can come to, but not coming at it as like desperate, like the world's going to fall apart if you don't get a yes or a sale.
Absolutely. It's almost like you're making deposits and you don't know when the withdrawal will happen, but it doesn't matter. You're there to make deposits around the world and just to help.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, is there a piece of sales advice that you've received at some point in your career that has, changed your approach or really stuck with you?
Yeah, and I found it's helpful in I teach both EOS and I'm also an outgrow advisor. And the thing I always live by is that I want there to be some connection already. Like I'm not into cold outreaches. I always connect with people who either love Megan, they love EOS, they love Outgrow, like they have some kind of connection to me because then I have a starting foundation to build from. And I find that's great advice in general in sales that people will come and find you when they know who you are and there's some connection already there.
Yeah. And how do you, for people that is it that you're getting, introductions from people that know you and then are referring people that might need your business? Is it more staying relevant with, content, and so people kind of get to know you through that way? Like what are the some key ways that you get to know people or become, someone that they, know to reach out to?
The fastest way to get business is through referrals. So I tend to lean on my amazing clients that, I have a great client base that I've built through the years and I've helped them to grow their businesses. And so there's that track record and there's that credibility and there's a long relationship there. And so when I reach out to them, I say, hey, I've so enjoyed working with your team. My best clients come from my current clients that I already have a great relationship with. Like, do you know anyone that I can help in the same way that I've helped you? And then when they're passing your name along, they're passing along that trust and that credibility that they've already built with you. And I find that that's the best foundation for being able to build that relationship with the new connection. So I tend to look for things like that in my life where already there's some kind of connection there. Or just the other day, I was looking through my CRM. We all have those to manage all the contacts that we have and figure out who we should be connecting with. And I realized, oh wow, I've never looked through this entire list of people that I have that I've actually referred out to other implementers. Like maybe I wasn't the right EOS implementer fit or the right Outgrow advisor, but I had a conversation with those people once upon a time. I got to know them, I got an understanding of what their challenges were, and I helped to match them with the right solution. And to go back to those people now, like I made that deposit often 2, 3 years ago. They remember who you are when you reach out again. And so I tend to find those moments where I had a connection in life and maybe even in a past business that I was in, like peer groups that you've been in. There's all those different options, but start where there's some kind of connection already, and then you can build from there.
Yeah, I love that. It really helps so much. Even with us at Talent Harbor, one of the things that we say, and it's kind of a little bit different than your business, but you know, we run on EOS, and so many of our clients run on EOS, and so like when they hear that, like, oh, you run on EOS too, it's that instant connection with like, you speak my language, we get it, we're
Yeah.
doing the same things. So yeah, I totally get that. It really helps to have that something in
Hmm.
common, or some type of connection where that you can really like pull on
Yeah.
to create that bond. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So, there's obviously so much talk in the world right now about like AI and what that's going to change. And I'm sure we could do, a whole day or week podcast or, conversation on, what that's going to look like. But are there any ways that you use like AI tools in your business, or do you see it like really changing the game of sales in the day to day?
I don't profess to be an AI guru, Alana, but I will share how I use it in my own business, and some thoughts around how not to not to use it. It's funny, I just had an experience where somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn, and it clearly was some kind of AI bot or something that they'd set up just to reach out to people who might be a useful connection. And I already have a connection with this person. I've already spoken to them multiple times. I've sent them business, and so it actually kind of turned me off to like get this very generic outreach. I'm like, I know who you are, I love you, I would have sent you business, but now you've kind of put a wall up there. So I share that because it made me really think about in relationship based sales. Now, we're not talking about like e-commerce where you're going to get somebody to click on an ad and go buy something. That's transactional sales. I'm more in the world of relationship based sales. You want to always be building on that foundation rather than assuming there's no foundation. And the AI exercise came across a little bit the wrong way that time. So, how I use it in my own relationship sales context is I use it to increase efficiency. So, I often will record the calls that I have with people. I'll use it to like rearrange my notes, maybe even prepare for the next phase in the pipeline with that prospect. So, it helps me to think through objections. What were the common concerns they had? Overall, was the conversation positive? Like, AI is so great at reading people's body language and their emotions and the tone that they're using. So it just helps me to gut check how did that first call really go and how do I set myself up for success in the next stage of the process. So I use it a lot for that. That's the major thing that I do. I hear people talking about how they might eventually do some of their sales process through just an AI bot or a coach, and like it looks like it's you there, but it's not really. For me, I think people want humans and wisdom, and those things are different than AI. So if you're in B2B or B2C relationship based sales, I think use it more for the efficiency, as I'm explaining there, rather than to actually do the outreach and the connection. Like, it still needs to feel human for that lead to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I very much agree with you there, and very similar in the way that we use AI too for efficiency. For where we're interviewing people, we're recording
Mm.
conversations and interviews, and then we can upload that, put it into AI, get an understanding of how this person matches the job description, different questions to ask, and
Mm.
things like that. So I think like for that, it's super valuable. There's also these AI tools out there that will like interview people, with an AI bot and not a human.
Yeah,
And that's not something that, the path that we're going down. Like this is a really, it's, people are, either buying or interviewing, looking for a job. These are all emotional things.
absolutely.
And it's all relationship driven to really understand, people's motivations, what their pain points are, and all of these different things. So absolutely agree. Like using it for efficiency, using it for, to help you, organize your thoughts and make things more efficient.
Hmm.
Awesome. But to kind of, there's so much that still needs that human element that's just really important to not lose that part.
Absolutely. And it can help you leverage that a little bit. Like I have a few clients that are doing some kind of relationship mapping to make sure like the right person is connecting with the right person that knows them out in the world. All of that's great. Like what we can do with the click of a button in AI to map, a group of people's LinkedIn connections and figure out which point should we leverage. Like that's brilliant. That's a huge save on time. But then the actual connection, the interaction has to be a human.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Do you think there's something that salespeople should stop doing if they want to become more successful?
I feel very strongly on this one. um, and, I'm an Outgrow advisor, so I'm biased on it as well. We say stop emailing. And what I mean there is too often we hide behind emails because we're afraid of rejection. But if you're in sales, like you are in the rejection profession. So, there's that feeling like back when I was in grade school and I liked the kid, a couple rows over in English class. I would tell my friend to tell his friend that I liked him rather than going and having that direct conversation because we're afraid of rejection. Like we're naturally wired that way. But when you're sending an email, you're doing the same thing. You're hiding behind that email. You're volunteering yourself into spam half the time, and you're not building a relationship, which is, again, central to sales. So what we say instead is, emails are great for information passing. They might be great for the newsletters you're sending out just to keep yourself, the name visible and the awareness in somebody's inbox, but it's not the way you build a relationship. So stop emailing as a way to build relationships. When you call people proactively, when nothing is wrong, I'm not talking a reaction to like a customer service problem. You're reaching out to people you know in the world that already have a connection with you. And you're having that human to human conversation. It'll often be less than 5 minutes. But if you systemize this across your world, you're going to realize that people are excited to talk to you. They're excited to hear what is happening in your world and to share what's happening in theirs and to know how you can help each other. Like that's just, we're also naturally wired that way. So pick up the phone, connect with human beings. They want to hear from you and you singularly set yourself apart when you do that because nobody else is doing it. Like their phones are not ringing off the hook. And so be a
Yeah.
person, be available, and you're setting yourself apart for future business.
Yeah, it's so true. Like nobody picks up the phone anymore, right? Like, or they default to sending an email, sending a message over LinkedIn or, something like that, or, just picking up the phone, having conversation. It doesn't even have to be, you could just it's building that relationship. And just talking to somebody and you always I was talking to a client yesterday. We chat on the phone all the time, but we realized yesterday like my mom lives in the same literally the same
Yeah.
neighborhood as his mom, right? Like we would never have figured that out if we're just emailing back and forth and answering, following up and answering a question. Like these are relationship things, and we're like, oh, look, and they don't even live in this state; they live in the same neighborhood in Florida.
Yeah.
So like it's just like one of those coincidences that and things that like build that relationship that you would never really get into over just an email. So it's really about that like you said like just pick up the phone and chat with someone, them hearing your voice, and you can often get more information than
Absolutely.
and provide value. You don't know what they're looking for unless you ask and check in and see what's up in their world.
And some people don't know where to start with this idea. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm supposed to call people? Like, who calls people?" Especially certain generations, like that's just unheard of. If you're already in your email, your inbox is a living, breathing list of people you can call. So when somebody emails you, just call them and be like, "Got your email? I'm on it. I'm working on it." And like, "Hey, what's going on in your world? Like, how can I help you? Let me tell you about what I'm up to lately." So if you don't know where to start, look in your inbox. You're in there anyways and they would love to hear your voice instead of getting another thing that's a to do in their inbox that they have to read.
Yeah, love that. I love it. Uh, so finding moving on to a different topic here, finding sales talent and great people is really tough.
Mm,
Are there any tips or advice or strategies that you have used in the past, or that alert you when you're interviewing for sales talent, like that somebody is going to be a rock star and a good fit?
yeah. Well, first off, go to Talent Harbor because you're the experts that can help with
That's great advice. I love that advice.
That's a good place to start. Well, I'll share the EOS concept around this. So we always say right person in the right seat. And right person means that they have the core values. Like you're just going to enjoy working together. You're going to click. And especially in a sales role, we want to make sure like they have even more specifically, the core values that we need in a salesperson. So like somebody on my team, I need to make sure they like have a hunger and hustle. Like they're going to be out there and they're going to do it. They're going to dig in even when it feels tough. So like I'm always looking for that, because that I can't train. That comes hardwired in advance. So that's the right person side. Then the right seat side is getting really clear on what are your expectations for that person. Like I also love Objective Management Group. They do fantastic sales assessments, and they can help you with that right seat part, because sometimes you don't realize, there's a really different skill set I need for somebody who's going to be cold calling versus somebody who's more of a closer or like a sales engineer. So they help you to figure out what are the different skill sets in sales. How does this person measure up against those? Do I even have the right job description for it? So there's a lot of background work you can do to set that person up for success and make sure you're clear on the structure and the needs that you have. And then, okay, does that person get, want, and have the capacity to actually fill that role? So it's this interesting combination of behaviors, attitude, that's the right person, and then also the skill set and defining that skill set you need. You put these two things together and you'll have a great employee.
Yeah, we run on EOS, so we obviously very much subscribe to that, right person, right seat, and it's part of our process at Talent Harbor when we're working with clients, because they need to understand, the first thing I always say too is defining that seat is the beginning of this process, right? So like if you don't know what you're looking for, and in sales, like you said, like what type of skills you need, because if you have a sales rep here and a sales rep here, that does not mean that they're doing the same thing. It does not mean they have to use the same tools, or, are they prospecting the same way? There's so many different facets to this. So really defining that seat first, and then will allow you to find that right person. And it's a step that a lot of companies skip.
Yeah.
Right. So it's where they're like, oh, we need a salesperson. Okay, let's go find a salesperson. But really defining those traits that you're looking for, and things like that. So I absolutely agree with you. Define the seat, and then you can find the right person for that right seat.
Yeah. The prep
Yeah,
comes
and there's
from
things
us
that you can.
before we're interviewing, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. There's things that you can train, and there's things that you can't train, right? So like that right person, core values, culture fit match, like you're not going to be able to train for that. But if there's like a CRM or something that they need to know, people can learn that. But you've got to really focus too on those core values, culture fit. Do they fit in with your organization? Because it is so important to have that right
Absolutely.
match.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Megan, tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, and where people can find you.
Great. Thanks, Rolana. So I do two different things. I teach both EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, as well as the Outgrow framework. So I call them both frameworks. Basically, if your business needs help running better overall, that's where EOS comes in. It's a framework that's best practices and how to run all areas of your business. You can focus out on what you do in the world. Too many people focus on reinventing the wheel and how they run internally, and EOS just hands them on a platter a proven process and framework that's been used across tens of thousands of businesses. And then I also teach Outgrow, so I'm an Outgrow advisor, and Outgrow as well as a framework, and it also brings discipline and accountability, but really specifically within the revenue function. And I don't just say the sales function, because we extend beyond that. We actually make sure like every customer or client facing person in the organization has some really simple proactive things they can do every day. It takes them 5 minutes to proactively build relationships, to ask some well-placed questions, to maybe intentionally ask for referrals. It's basically just choreographed, systemized ways that we can build relationships that lead to closing sales. We teach them to pivot as well. So Outgrow helps people to increase their revenue 15 to 30% year over year through 5-minute activities daily. And EOS helps them to scale that business as a foundation. So I kind of think like EOS is the foundation and Outgrow builds on that. They can be used together or separately, either way. So I spend my days helping people to grow their business, whether it's the entire business or specifically within the revenue function. But I'm just absolutely honored to do it. And my family thinks it's quite ironic that this is what I'm doing in life at this point, because I was always an introvert and never imagined myself in sales. So it's funny, my grandfather and my great-grandfather were both salespeople. And my former life, I was a COO, CFO. So actually was more on the back end of things and helped to grow a business from 3 million to 52 million, had a blast. But what I learned during that business is my favorite part was connecting people. And then when I started to teach EOS, I discovered this whole world of sales, because when you're an EOS implementer, you're both a seller and a doer. So you've got to be building the business and also delivering to clients. And I realized one of my favorite parts of my day was building the business, because it's simply connecting with people. So it's really the same thing I was doing internally at Planson International that I then turned externally to grow the business development in EOS. And then I found, in EOS, we teach delegate and elevate. So as I looked at my delegate and elevate quadrants, like top left is always business development. Oh my gosh, maybe I should teach this to people because I have such a passion for it. And when you teach something that you truly enjoy and it comes naturally, it helps people to feel confidence and to go out and do it as well. So that's the two areas of the world that I help people to grow, is the whole business and then specifically within the revenue function.
Yeah, love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Well, just one
Great.
more thing. Where can people find you?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
assume you're on LinkedIn and
Yes, LinkedIn's the best place. If they Google Megan Piper EOS or Megan Piper Outgrow, you'll get my microsites within those two organizations. But LinkedIn's probably the best place to start.
awesome. Well, thank you, Megan. It's been awesome having you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.
It's been fantastic. Thank you, Alana.